Hey guys, it's Jake here with eTrailer. Today we have a 2023 Chevy Silverado 3500. We're going to be taking a look at and I'm going to show you how to install the B&W Gooseneck Hitch with the turnover ball. You obviously can haul gooseneck trailers once you install this in your vehicle, but the B&W Hitch also has a companion fifth wheel hitch.
The underbed design of this kit allows for full truck bed access when you're ready. It's under 5 minutes to convert your empty truck bed into a fifth wheel hitch. We'll start by unlocking our B&W hitch and installing our fifth wheel adapter. We have ours pre-assembled, but you can adjust the uprights here depending on your truck and trailer combination. At this point, the hitch is ready to attach to the trailer. There's a little clip here that you can release. Basically, it's a safety pin. Then you can swing the handle out and you can watch the jaws open. You're ready to back into your trailer now. Once you're secure under the trailer, you can reinstall the clip. Since the fifth wheel installation kit doubles as a gooseneck hitch, when you're not towing your fifth wheel, you can remove it, turn it over, and we can store it upside down in the hitch. That way we'll have full bed access.
B&W is known for having really rugged and tough accessories, and this gooseneck is definitely proof of that. When installing it, every component is really thick steel. It has a really nice, that trademarked gray powder coat finish from B&W. I think it looks really good in the bed of a truck. The safety chain loops are nice and wide, so you can fit any size safety chain is going to fit on this from whatever trailer you're hauling. This gooseneck hitch is going to have a 30,000 pound gross trailer weight capacity. That's a trailer plus the load included, and a 7,500 pound pin weight capacity. That is the coupler on your gooseneck trailer pushing down on the hitch. Now you want to check with the owner's manual of your vehicle to be sure what it can handle when it comes to towing, and you want to pick the lowest amount between the two. So if your truck has a lower amount than 30,000 pounds gross towing, you want to go with your truck's capacity, not the hitch's. A little bit more about the hitch, there is a nice coating on this ball so that it'll help resist rust and corrosion. I do recommend putting some grease on top of the ball and on the inside of the coupler. It'll help save this steel longer. If you are going to be hauling those heavier trailers, I highly recommend getting some suspension enhancements. You can get a set of Timbrins, a set of Sumo springs. Those are going to be your non-adjustable, but then if you want some adjustability in your suspension, you can do the Roadmaster active suspension or a set of airbags. And when it comes to the installation of this kit, the biggest difference between this and other kits available for this truck is that this kit is not going to have any visible brackets that you have to mount on the side of the frame rails. The other kits that are available, you'll have two brackets that go on each frame rail on either side of it that sandwich it. Those will come in contact with airbag brackets if you decide to put a set of airbags on later on, or any other accessory that mounts to the frame rails. This kit is going to be a lot more involved, a little bit more difficult to put in because it has so many components to put together. The hardest part about this installation is going to be getting the bolts to go in the top of your frame rails. There are pre-welded nuts inside your frame for this exact hitch to bolt inside of. And if you don't get the holes cleaned out well enough, or if your truck is a couple years old, you have to clean them out in order for those bolts to go smoothly down in there. But after it's all installed, I would much rather have the look that this hitch has versus the others. But with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the installation and we'll show you how we did it. To begin our installation, you need to lower your spare tire and remove this heat shield. There's going to be two bolts holding the heat shield on. We'll use a 13mm socket to get them removed. This is going to just give us more room to be able to work up here. You definitely have to remove the spare tire. The heat shield, the instructions say to remove it, so we're going to. We'll set this off to the side. Now we're going to have 4 bolts that are holding our heat shield that's above our axle in place. We'll have to remove all 4 of those. We'll have 1 here, 1 at the opposite end, and 2 on top of the frame rail. Now we can take this heat shield down, remove it. We will not be reinstalling it. We need to measure for a 4-inch hole. We'll measure up from the back of our bed, follow the measurements in the instructions for the size bed that you have. We'll measure up. We're going to add about an 1/8 of an inch because of the spray and bed liner is pretty thick there at the bottom, or back at the back of our bed. We'll mark that, and we're on the center rib because it's about the center of the truck, but we'll measure side to side, split the difference, and yep, looks like we're going to be right in the center of this rib. But that's how you get your side to side measurement and front to back. Now we'll take a 4-inch hole saw with a pilot drill bit and drill our hole out. Now we'll take a file, we'll clean up these edges so we don't have any sharp edges. And we can take a paint marker. You can also just use clear spray paint if you want, and coat this edge so that we don't have any rust or corrosion later on. In our wheel well, we'll have to remove 3 T15 Torx bit screws. This is to allow more access to the frame so we can pull this out. Now before we go back underneath our truck and get our rails installed, we need to get them set up. You can see we've done one here. We need to put these plates underneath the bottom of these rails. You want to make sure that your seam weld is on the bottom. Take our bracket, slide it over till the holes line up. We're only going to be doing one side of this because we're going to need all the space we can get to slide this up in place and put the other side on. Take these large bolts that come in our kit, slide them through, and thread on our flange nuts. We're going to torque these to the specifications in our instructions. Before we put our cross members up, we're going to lower our exhaust to give us some more room to work above it. Now with our exhaust lowered, we can get our cross members up into place. Slide it up over the exhaust, and we'll try going through the other way first. Set it up on our frame rail. There we go. And we'll rest it on top of the exhaust for now. We'll have the other side of our bracketry that we need to put up into place. Slide it up. Now with the bracket up there, you take these bolts and slide them through. And we'll take a flange nut and put one on each side. We're going to repeat the same process for our rear bar. Now we're going to prep to lift our center section up into place. We'll have to put this bracket on the outside of each side of our rails. I'm going to stick it through and then push the bolt back just enough to where it's flush. Same thing on the other one, and then we'll repeat that process over here. For our center section, before we put it up in place, the smaller section is going to be, which is this part here, is going to face the front of the vehicle. The larger part will be facing the rear. Our latch was originally on this other side. You just want to take it out, put it on this side, and then put your 2 bolts in. Now we can raise it up into place. This piece can get kind of heavy. That's why we have a strap up there to be able to help us. But we might be able to get it. hole and then slide our brace back over and slide our bolts through to hold this in place. We need to go into our wheel wells. Now you can unbolt it like we did before. If you'd like a little bit more space, you can take the whole wheel well liner out. It's not a huge deal. Ours is covered in rock dust, so it is going to be a little bit of a messy job. But this bracket right here, there's going to be a spot for 2 of these bolts, the shorter bolts that come in your kit, and there's weld nuts inside the frame that we need to slide these down and thread them in place. Now once you get all of the 8 bolts in the top of your rails down into your frame rails, we're ready to tighten and torque the remaining hardware underneath. You want to leave those loose so that the hitch can kind of tighten itself all together, and then we'll tighten the ones on the top of the frame rail. If you have trouble getting them in, we had trouble with one of them. What you have to do is you just have to move the rails back and forth and side to side to be able to shimmy it enough to get that bolt to line up correctly. Another thing that we discovered is this frame coating that they put on these GM trucks is really goopy. You can see it gooped up all over the frame. Try to get that cleaned out of those holes before you put any of your bolts in, because it's going to gunk them up and you're not going to be able to get the bolts to start. But with all 8 of ours in, we can tighten all the rest of our hardware. With everything torqued down on our hitch, while we're still under here, we're going to go ahead and put our handle on. Your handle, you want to just make sure that this part is facing down. We'll slide it up or over top of our frame rail. Slide the bolts in this side. We have to pull it out a little bit. We'll just pull it out in the lock position. Put the bolt in the square head side and put the flange nut on the other side. Now with our handle tightened down on the inside, we went ahead and threw our screws back in real quick just to test out how close this fabric is to our handle. On my personal truck, I didn't cut this because I didn't like the look of it. But on this one, it's a little tighter. When you go to pull the gooseneck out, it hits it before it fully releases. So we're gonna have to cut it. We need to cut about 2 inches on either side of where the handle's at, and it's right here. So we'll cut here. With this opening, you can see I put a little bit larger space over here for the owner's thumb to go. You can pull it out all the way. There we go. And that's in the unlock position. You can go up, flip your ball over, and then lock it back into place. Now we can take a very small drill bit and drill a pilot hole in the center of our safety chain loops. That's going to help us guide our larger drill bit up to 11/16. Now we'll come up top on our bed and work our way up with drill bits up to 11/16. Once your holes are drilled out to 11/16, we'll take our safety chain loop and test out each one. You want it to be a nice loose fit because we're going to have springs on the bottom that'll keep it down, and you don't want to have to try to force it up. But check both of them. And once you're all good, you can take some more of that paint and coat the insides of the holes. Now we can come back and tighten and torque all the 8 bolts that are attaching our rails of our gooseneck to the top of our frame rails. Torquing these down are going to be tough, but if you have to pick up a crow's foot, you can do that. But it may be easier to do it. Actually, you can only do it from the outside of the frame, so we'll have to figure out a way to do that. Now the instructions do state if you can't get a torque wrench in here to tighten these bolts or to torque them down, really the only way to do it otherwise is to lift the bed off, which is a lot of work, and most people aren't going to be able to do that at their house. So the alternative is you just take a normal 18 millimeter wrench and you get it as tight as you can. You shouldn't go over that torque rating if you're just using a hand tool. Be sure you're not using an extension like a breaker bar pipe or anything like that. You just want to use the wrench itself. Now back underneath, we'll take our springs for our safety chain loops. Take the wider end, slide it over the spring, then take the nut and thread it on the bottom. When we tighten these, you can see we've already done the other side. You want to tighten them until this nut is about flush with the bottom. You just want to make sure that there's more than enough length to be able to pull out. And with these larger safety chain loops, that's more than enough. With all of our hardware installed and everything torqued down, that's going to do it for installation. All we have to do is put our heat shield back and our spare tire. Well guys, that's going to do it for a look at and installation of the B&W turnover ball gooseneck hitch on our 2023 Chevrolet Silverado 3500.